I was sitting in my armchair at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, scrolling through WhatsApp like I always do before bed, when I saw it. My neighbor Geneva's daughter had posted a story. I almost scrolled past it. Almost. But something made me stop. There was my son Terrence in a crisp white tuxedo standing at an altar covered in white roses and gold ribbons. Next to him stood a woman in the most beautiful wedding dress I'd ever seen, all lace and pearls and long flowing train. Her face was glowing. His face was glowing. Behind them were at least 200 people in fancy clothes, sitting in gold chairs with white cushions. A string quartet played in the corner. Champagne towers sparkled on tables draped in silk. My son was getting married, and I wasn't there. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. I couldn't breathe. I literally could not catch my breath. My chest felt like someone had reached inside and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and watched the story again, and again, and again. Each time I looked for some explanation, some reason why this couldn't be what it looked like. Maybe it was an old video. Maybe it was someone else's wedding. Maybe... But no. There was the date stamp. Today. October 14th. And there was Terrence's friend Darnell in the background, laughing and raising a glass. There was his cousin Amara, dancing. There was his boss from the law firm where he works, dressed in a navy blue suit. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. Before we continue, shout out to Keisha from Detroit. We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing. I need you to understand something. I'm 67 years old. I spent 43 years working 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and working the assembly line at the battery plant during the day, so my boy could have what I never had. When his daddy walked out on us when Terrence was just 3 years old, I made a promise. I promised that child would never go without, that he would go to college, that he would have a better life than I did. And I kept that promise. I worked until my hands ached and my back screamed and my feet swelled up so bad I had to sleep with them elevated. I worked through holidays and birthdays and church gatherings. I missed my own mother's funeral because I couldn't afford to lose a day's pay. I wore the same 3 outfits for 5 years. I ate rice and beans while my son ate chicken and vegetables. I made sure he had new school clothes every year while I patched the holes in my own dresses. When Terrence got accepted to Howard University, I cried tears of joy for 3 days straight. When he graduated summa cum laude, I screamed so loud during the ceremony that people 3 rows back asked me to quiet down. When he got accepted to law school, I took out a second mortgage on my little house, the house I'd spent 20 years paying off, to help with his tuition. And when he graduated from law school and got that fancy job at the corporate firm downtown, when he said he needed a proper house in a good neighborhood to look professional, to build his career, to make the right impression, I sold my house. The house I'd lived in for 35 years. The house where I'd raised him. The house where every corner held a memory of his childhood. I sold it and used every penny to buy him a beautiful 3-bedroom house in Oakmont Heights, one of the nicest neighborhoods in the city. I put the deed in my name, just temporarily, he said, just until his credit was better. And I moved into a tiny studio apartment across town. 1 room, a kitchenette, a bathroom so small I had to turn sideways to use the sink. But I was happy, because my son had made it. My son was living the dream I'd worked myself to the bone to give him. That was 3 years ago. In those 3 years, Terrence's visits got shorter and less frequent. He stopped coming by the apartment because he said it was too far out of the way. We stopped having Sunday dinners because he was always too busy with work. He stopped answering my calls during the day because he was in important meetings. He stopped inviting me to his house because he was entertaining clients, or working from home, or having the place renovated. Last Christmas, he sent me a gift card. A gift card. After I'd spent 43 years sacrificing everything for him, he sent me a $50 gift card to Target. But I told myself he was busy. Important lawyers are busy people. He was building his career, making something of himself. That's what I wanted for him, right? That's what all those years of sacrifice were for. I told myself that right up until I saw that wedding video on WhatsApp. I sat in my armchair that night watching the stories over and over. Geneva's daughter had posted 7 of them. The ceremony, the first dance, the cake cutting, the speeches. Every single one showed my son looking happier than I'd ever seen him. And I wasn't there. I tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. I tried texting. No response. I tried calling again at midnight, at 1 a.m., at 2 a.m. Nothing. At 3 in the morning, I finally gave up trying to sleep. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at my tiny kitchen table, staring at my phone. That's when I opened Facebook and saw that Bianca, that's her name, I learned from the tags on the photos, had already posted pictures. Hundreds of pictures. The engagement photos I'd never seen, the bridal shower I'd never been invited to, the bachelor and bachelorette parties. The rehearsal dinner, every major moment leading up to this wedding documented and shared with hundreds of people. But not with me. In one photo, Bianca stood with her mother and grandmother, all 3 of them in matching silk robes, laughing as they got ready for the ceremony. The caption said, "3 generations of strong women, so blessed to have these ladies by my side on my special day." I stared at that photo until my eyes burned. At 6 in the morning, my phone finally rang. Terrence. "Mama," he said, and his voice was tight. "I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked. My voice didn't sound like my own. It sounded hollow, empty. "Explain why you got married yesterday and didn't tell your own mother? Explain why I had to find out from a WhatsApp story?" "I was going to tell you." "When? After the honeymoon? After your first anniversary?" "Mama, please." "Who did you tell yourself I was, Terrence? When you were planning that wedding, when you were sending out invitations, when you were seating 200 people in gold chairs, who did you tell yourself I was that I didn't deserve to be there?" Silence. "Answer me." More silence. Then, "It's complicated." Complicated. Bianca's family is... they're different. They're rich, I finished for him. Bianca's family is rich, and I'm not. Is that what you're saying? No, that's not... Mama, you don't understand. These are important people. Doctors, lawyers, judges. Bianca's father sits on 3 corporate boards. Her mother is on the board of the art museum. They move in certain circles and you were ashamed of me. I wasn't ashamed. I didn't want there to be any awkwardness. You wouldn't have fit in with... He stopped, but he'd said enough. "I wouldn't have fit in," I repeated slowly. "Your mother, who worked 2 jobs for 43 years so you could go to college, who sold her house so you could have yours, who gave you everything she had and everything she didn't have. I wouldn't have fit in at your wedding." "Mama, please try to understand." "I understand perfectly." My hand was shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. "I understand that you're exactly like your father. He was ashamed of me too. Said I wasn't good enough, didn't have the right education, didn't come from the right family. That's why he left. And now you've done the same thing, except you had me buy you a house first." "That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair? I'll tell you what's not fair, Terrence. What's not fair is discovering your only child got married by seeing it on social media. What's not fair is realizing that the son I gave my whole life to thinks I'm an embarrassment. I never said, you didn't have to say it. You proved it by leaving me out of the most important day of your life." I took a deep breath. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. "I need to go." "Mama, wait!" I hung up. Then I turned off my phone, sat in the dark, and cried for the first time in 15 years. I cried for every sacrifice that meant nothing, for every meal I'd skipped, For every extra shift I'd worked, for the house I'd sold, for the pride I'd swallowed, for the love I'd given that was never enough. When the sun came up, I was done crying. I pulled out the manila folder I keep in my bedside drawer. The folder with all my important documents: birth certificate, social security card, the title to my old house, and underneath all of that, the deed to Terrence's house. The house was still in my name. I'd asked him about transferring it at least 5 times over the past 3 years. Each time he had an excuse. He was too busy. The paperwork was complicated. He'd get to it next month, but he'd never gotten around to it. I sat there looking at that deed for a long time. Then I picked up my phone, turned it back on, and called the one person I knew could help me. "Pearl," I said when my childhood friend answered, "I need the number for that real estate agent you used when you sold your place, and I need it now." Pearl didn't ask questions. That's why I called her. We've known each other since we were 7 years old, growing up in the same neighborhood, playing double dutch on the same cracked sidewalks. She knows how to read my voice, and she knew right then that something was seriously wrong. "I'm texting you Shanice's number right now," she said. "She's the best realtor in the city, and she owes me a favor. You call her and tell her I sent you. She'll take care of you." "Pearl," I said, my voice breaking a little, "I haven't told you why I need—" "Don't matter. You need help. I help you. That's how we do. You can tell me the rest when you're ready. That's Black women for you. We take care of each other. Always have. Always will." I called Shanice at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. I didn't care if it was too early. I didn't care if it was the Lord's Day. I needed to move fast before I lost my nerve. "Ms. Pearl's friend?" Shanice answered on the second ring, her voice bright and professional. "She told me you'd be calling. What can I do for you?" "I need to sell a house," I said. "Today." There was a pause. "Today is Sunday, ma'am." "I know what day it is. Can you help me or not?" Another pause. Then, "What's the address?" I gave her Terrence's address in Oakmont Heights. I heard her typing on a computer. "That's a nice property," she said slowly. 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, completely renovated kitchen, hardwood floors throughout. In that neighborhood? Should sell fast. "But ma'am, if you don't mind me asking, why the rush?" "Because it's my house and I want it sold. That's all you need to know." "Fair enough," Shanice said. I could hear respect in her voice. "Can you meet me there at noon? I'll need to see the property, take some photos, get the paperwork started." "The house is occupied," I told her. "My son lives there. He doesn't know I'm selling it yet." Silence on the other end. Then, "Ma'am, is your name on the deed?" "Yes, just mine, not his." "Then legally, it's your house to sell. But this is going to get messy. You understand that?" "I'm counting on it." Shanice laughed, a short, sharp sound. "All right then. I'll see you at noon. And ma'am, bring the deed and your ID. We're going to do this right." I spent the next 3 hours getting ready. I put on my best church dress, the navy blue one with the white collar that I only wear for special occasions. I did my hair, put on my mother's pearl earrings that she left me when she passed, put on lipstick for the first time in months. If I was going to walk into that house and take it back, I was going to do it with dignity. At 11:30, I took the bus across town to Oakmont Heights. I don't have a car anymore. Sold it 2 years ago when the repairs got too expensive. So I take the bus everywhere now. It takes an hour and 15 minutes to get from my studio apartment to Terrence's neighborhood. I've made that trip maybe 5 times in the past 3 years, always when he's grudgingly agreed to let me visit. The bus stop is 6 blocks from his house. As I walked those 6 blocks, I looked at the neighborhood I'd bought my son into. Big houses with perfect lawns, trees lining every street, BMWs and Mercedes in every driveway, children riding expensive bicycles, women in yoga pants walking designer dogs. This was the life I'd given him. Shanice was already parked outside when I arrived, leaning against a silver Lexus and scrolling through her phone. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with long braids and a sharp burgundy pantsuit that screamed success. "You must be Loretta," she said, extending her hand. I shook it. Her grip was firm, confident. "That's me." She looked at the house, then back at me. "Beautiful property. You've taken good care of it." "I bought it 3 years ago. For my son. Used every penny from selling my own house plus my life savings. Thought I was helping him build a future." Shanice's expression shifted. Understanding flickered in her eyes. "And now?" "Now I found out he got married yesterday and didn't invite me because he was ashamed of me. Said I wouldn't fit in with his new wife's fancy family." Shanice closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were hard. "My brother did something similar to our mama. Moved to California, married some woman from old money, stopped coming home for holidays. Mama died 2 years ago and he didn't even come to the funeral. Said he couldn't get time off work." She straightened up. "Let's sell this house." She wasn't lying when she said she was the best. Shanice walked through that house like she owned it, taking photos, making notes, pointing out every upgrade and feature. The marble countertops in the kitchen, the crown molding in the dining room, the master bathroom with the jacuzzi tub. "Your son here?" she asked as we stood in the living room. "No. He's probably at his new wife's family estate or wherever they went after the wedding. But he might come back soon. His suitcases are here, so he hasn't left for a honeymoon yet." "Good," Shanice said, typing something into her tablet. "Here's what I'm thinking. This neighborhood is hot right now. Really hot. I have 3 cash buyers who've been looking for a property exactly like this for months. If you're serious about moving fast, I can have this listed by tonight and probably have offers by tomorrow morning. How fast can we close? With a cash buyer? 2 weeks. Maybe less if we push." "Do it." Shanice looked at me hard. "You're sure about this? Once we start this process, there's no going back. Your son is going to fight you. His wife's family might get their lawyers involved. It's going to be ugly." "I worked 2 jobs for 43 years, I said quietly. I survived an absent husband, a racist boss at the plant who tried to get me fired 6 times, losing my own mama while I was too broke to take time off work, and raising a child alone in a neighborhood where gunshots were our lullabies. I've been through ugly before. This is just Tuesday." Shanice smiled, a real smile this time. "All right, Ms. Loretta. Let's do this." We were walking back to our cars when a black Mercedes pulled into the driveway. Terrence. My stomach dropped. I hadn't expected him back so soon. I thought I'd have more time before the confrontation. He got out of the car, looking relaxed in khakis and a polo shirt, carrying a Starbucks cup. When he saw me standing on his lawn with a strange woman holding a tablet and camera, the color drained from his face. "Mama, what are you doing here?" "Preparing to sell your house," I said calmly. He laughed, a nervous, disbelieving sound. "Sell my house? What are you talking about?" "It's not your house, Terrence. It's my house. My name is on the deed, and I've decided to sell it." He looked at Shanice. "Who are you?" "Shanice Morrison, Premier Realty Group," she said smoothly, handing him a business card. "I'm listing this property as of tonight." "You can't do this," Terrence said, turning back to me. His voice was rising now, panic creeping in. "Mama, you're upset about the wedding, I understand that, but this is crazy." "Crazy?" I stepped closer to him. "Crazy is working yourself into the ground for a child who grows up to be ashamed of you. Crazy is selling your own home so your son can live in a nice neighborhood, then not getting invited to his wedding because you're not good enough for his new family. That's crazy, Terrence." "I explained that. Bianca's parents." "I don't care about Bianca's parents." My voice cracked. People walking their dogs on the sidewalk stopped to stare. "I care that my son looked me in the eye through that phone and told me I wouldn't fit in." I care that you thought so little of the woman who sacrificed everything for you that you couldn't even tell her you were getting married. So you're going to make me homeless? Is that it? That's your revenge? You're a lawyer making 6 figures a year. You'll figure it out. Maybe Bianca's parents with their corporate boards and museum galas can buy you a new house. I turned to walk away. Mama, please! You have 2 weeks once we accept an offer, I called over my shoulder. That's more notice than you gave me about your wedding. I didn't look back as I walked toward the bus stop. My legs were shaking so badly I could barely walk straight, but I kept going. I heard Terrence shouting something behind me, heard his car door slam, heard the Mercedes engine roar to life. But I kept walking. Shanice caught up to me at the bus stop, slightly out of breath. Ms. Loretta, please let me drive you home. It's the least I can do. I wanted to say no. I wanted to keep my pride and take the bus like I always do, but I was so tired, so bone-deep tired. So I nodded and followed her to the Lexus. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Shanice said, I'm going to list this at $475,000. Based on comparable sales in that neighborhood, we should get close to asking price, maybe even over. Where do you want the proceeds to go? $475,000. I'd bought that house for $390,000 3 years ago. With the equity I'd built and the renovations Terrence had done, I'd be making a profit. Open a new account, I said. In my name only. Put everything there. Consider it done. When Shanice dropped me off at my studio apartment, she turned to me before I got out. Ms. Loretta, I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to get nasty. Your son is going to call you. He's going to show up here. He might bring his wife and her family. He might threaten legal action. Are you prepared for that? I survived worse than Terrence throwing a tantrum. I believe you. She handed me another card. This is my personal cell. You call me anytime, day or night. I'm not just your realtor now, I'm your sister in this fight. That night, my phone started ringing. Terrence called 37 times. I counted. I didn't answer once. Then the texts started. Mama, please pick up. We need to talk about this. You're being unreasonable. Bianca is hysterical. Her parents are talking about getting lawyers involved. You can't just take my house. Everything I've worked for is in that house. You're ruining my life. That last one made me laugh. A bitter, hollow sound in my dark apartment. I was ruining his life? After everything I'd sacrificed, every dream I'd deferred, every comfort I'd denied myself for him, I was ruining his life by taking back the one thing that was legally mine? At midnight, someone started pounding on my apartment door. Mama, open the door! I know you're in there! Terrence. I sat in my armchair in the dark, listening to him bang on the door, listening to him shout threats and apologies in equal measure. My neighbors would complain tomorrow. The landlord would probably give me a warning. But I didn't move. I just sat there in the dark, listening to my son fall apart on the other side of that door. Finally, after 20 minutes, he left. I checked my phone. Shanice had texted, House is listed. Already have 2 buyers requesting showings tomorrow. This is going to move fast. Stay strong. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake, wondering if I was being too harsh, wondering if a mother was supposed to forgive her child no matter what. But then I thought about that wedding. About 200 people celebrating while I sat in my studio apartment, scrolling through photos of a life I wasn't good enough to be part of. No, I wasn't being too harsh. I was being exactly harsh enough. The next morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Loretta Washington? A woman's voice. Crisp. Cold. Professional. Yes? This is Vivian Caldwell Price. I'm Bianca's mother. I believe we need to have a conversation about this situation you've created. My blood went cold. And then, Just as quickly, it boiled. "The only situation I've created," I said slowly, "is taking back what belongs to me. If your daughter and my son wanted to avoid this situation, they should have invited me to their wedding." "You're being petty and vindictive," Vivian said. Her voice dripped with condescension. "Surely you understand that Terrence was trying to avoid awkwardness. Our families move in very different social circles, and I wasn't good enough for your fancy party. I understand perfectly." "I wouldn't put it quite that way." "Then how would you put it, Mrs. Caldwell-Price? Because from where I'm sitting, your family convinced my son that his own mother was an embarrassment. And now you're calling me at 6 a.m. to tell me I'm being petty for not accepting that." Silence. Then, "We're prepared to make this worth your while." "Name your price." "Excuse me?" "To drop this ridiculous sale and transfer the deed to Terrence properly. Name your price. Within reason, of course." I stood up from my bed, my whole body shaking with rage. "My price is that your daughter and my son figure out how to afford their own house. Like regular people, like I had to do. My price is that Terrence learns what it feels like to have something taken from him without warning. My price is—" $100,000, Vivian interrupted. "Cash. Transferred today. You drop the sale, sign over the deed, and we all move forward." $100,000. That was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. More than I'd make in 5 years at my old jobs. It was enough to move out of this studio apartment, to buy a small house, to finally have some security. For just a moment, one brief, flickering moment, I was tempted. "No," I heard myself say. "Excuse me?" I said no. "That house is selling. You can't buy your way out of this." "Ms. Washington, be reasonable." "I've been reasonable for 67 years. I'm done being reasonable. This conversation is over." I hung up. And for the first time in 3 days, I smiled. By Tuesday morning, Shanice called with news. "We have 5 offers, all cash. 3 are above asking price. The highest is $510,000. $510,000. I sat down hard on my bed. "There's one couple in particular," Shanice continued. "The Johnsons. Young black family, 2 kids. He's a teacher, and she's a nurse. They've been saving for years to get into that neighborhood. Their offer is $480,000. But Ms. Loretta, they remind me of you. Working people trying to give their children a better life." "Accept their offer," I said without hesitation. "But the other offer is $30,000 higher." "Accept the Johnsons' offer. Some things matter more than money." I could hear the smile in Shanice's voice. "I was hoping you'd say that. I'll drop the paperwork today." That afternoon, Pearl showed up at my apartment with a bag of groceries and a determined expression. "You haven't been answering my texts. I brought food. We're going to talk." I let her in because there's no point in arguing with Pearl when she's made up her mind about something. She put the groceries away while I sat at my little kitchen table and told her everything. The wedding, the WhatsApp story, the phone call with Terrence, the house sale. The offer from Bianca's mother. When I finished, Pearl was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You know what you need?" "What?" "A lawyer. Because Terrence is going to come at you hard and you need to be ready." "I can't afford a lawyer, Pearl." "Yes, you can. Remember my nephew Calvin? The one who just opened his own practice? He handles family law and real estate. He'll do it for free. I'll call him right now." Before I could protest, she had her phone out. Calvin Washington, no relation to me despite the name, arrived at my apartment 2 hours later. He was in his early 30s, sharp-dressed, carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Auntie Pearl told me everything," he said as he sat down across from me. "First thing I need you to know. You're completely within your legal rights. The house is in your name, the deed is clear, and your son has no legal claim to the property. But that doesn't mean he won't try to make your life difficult. He already is." Calvin opened his briefcase and pulled out some papers. Has he threatened legal action? Not directly, but his mother-in-law called and tried to bribe me to stop the sale. Calvin's eyebrows shot up. She tried to bribe you? Did you record that conversation? No. Why would I? Next time anyone from that family contacts you, record it. In this state, you only need one-party consent for recordings. If they're making threats or trying to coerce you, we need documentation. He slid a paper across the table. This is a cease and desist letter. If your son continues to harass you, showing up at your apartment, blowing up your phone, we can use this. It documents the pattern of behavior. I looked at the letter. It felt so official, so final. Ms. Washington, Calvin said gently, I know this is hard. He's your son. But right now, he's not acting like your son. He's acting like someone who feels entitled to something that never belonged to him. You have every right to protect yourself. Over the next week, things escalated exactly like Calvin predicted. Terrence showed up at my apartment 3 more times. Each time, I didn't answer the door. Each time, Calvin added the incident to his documentation. Bianca's father, some big-shot corporate attorney named Montgomery Price, sent a threatening letter claiming I was acting in bad faith and causing emotional distress to his daughter. Calvin responded with a letter so sharp and legally precise that we never heard from Montgomery again. The people at my church, Second Missionary Baptist, where I've attended for 40 years, got wind of what was happening. Not from me. I didn't tell anyone, but somehow, the way things spread in the Black community, people knew. Pastor Elijah came to visit me on Thursday evening. He sat in my tiny living room, this big man folded into my small armchair, and said, Sister Loretta, the church family wants you to know we stand with you. I started crying. I couldn't help it. Now, he said softly. You've been carrying this alone long enough. This Sunday, we're taking up a special collection. Whatever comes of this house sale, whatever happens next, you're not going to be in this studio apartment anymore. We're going to make sure you have a proper home. Pastor, I can't accept. It's not about accepting. It's about family, church family, real family. The kind that shows up when you need them, not the kind that hides you away at weddings. Sunday came. I almost didn't go to church. I didn't want to face people, didn't want their pity or their questions. But Pearl picked me up at 9 a.m. and wouldn't take no for an answer. When I walked into that sanctuary, something incredible happened. The entire congregation stood up. All 300 people rose to their feet and applauded. I stood in the doorway, stunned, as they clapped and some of them shouted, "That's right!" and "We love you, Sister Loretta!" and "You did the right thing!" Pastor Elijah had me come to the front. "This woman," he said, his voice booming through the church, "represents what real love looks like. Sacrificial love. The kind of love that works 2 jobs, that gives up everything, that never stops giving. And when that love was rejected, when she was cast aside like she didn't matter, she didn't crumble. She stood up. She took back her dignity. She showed her son that love doesn't mean letting yourself be treated like you're worthless." The congregation erupted in amens and hallelujahs. "Now," Pastor continued, "I know some of y'all might be thinking, but he's her son. Shouldn't she forgive him? And I want to be clear. Forgiveness doesn't mean being a doormat. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting people abuse your kindness. Jesus overturned tables in the temple when people disrespected what was sacred. And Sister Loretta's love, her sacrifice, her very existence, that's sacred. She had every right to overturn the table." More amens, more applause. The collection that day raised $12,000. $12,000 from people who didn't have much themselves, but gave anyway, because that's what we do. That's what community means. I cried through the whole service. On Monday morning, exactly 2 weeks after I'd listed the house, we closed the sale. The Johnsons walked into that property with their 2 little girls, eyes wide with wonder, and I watched them fall in love with it. watched them run through the rooms, already planning where furniture would go, which bedroom each girl would have. Mrs. Johnson, Aisha was her name, hugged me tight before they left. "Thank you," she whispered. "We've been praying for a miracle." "You're our miracle." I thought about telling her the whole story, but decided against it. Let them just have their joy. Let that house be filled with love and gratitude instead of the betrayal it had represented for me. Shanice handed me a check for $480,000. I stared at it. All those years of sacrifice crystallized into one piece of paper. "What now?" Shanice asked. "Now I buy myself a house," I said. "A small one, just for me, with a garden where I can grow tomatoes, and a front porch where I can sit and drink sweet tea, and enough left over that I never have to worry about money again." "I know just the place," Shanice said, grinning. Terrence found out about the closing on Tuesday. He called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Finally, he sent a text. "Mama, please, can we just talk? Face to face?" Against Calvin's advice, I agreed to meet him. Neutral territory. The coffee shop downtown. Wednesday at 2 p.m. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His expensive clothes looked rumpled. His eyes were red. "Mama," he said as I sat down. He reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "You sold my house." "I sold my house," I corrected. "The house I bought with my money, that was in my name, that you never bothered to transfer into your name in 3 years. Because you're my mother. I trusted you. You thought I'd always be there to give you whatever you needed while you gave me nothing in return. Not even basic respect." He flinched. "That's not fair." "Fair? Let me tell you about fair, Terrence." I leaned forward. "Fair would have been inviting your mother to your wedding. Fair would have been acknowledging the woman who sacrificed everything for you. Fair would have been saying, 'Mama, these are Bianca's parents, and they might be fancy people, but you're my mother, and you deserve to be here.' That would have been fair. Bianca's family—" "I don't care about Bianca's family!" My voice rose. Other people in the coffee shop turned to look. I didn't care. "I care that you chose them over me. I care that you decided I was an embarrassment. I care that when it came down to it, all those years I spent raising you meant less to you than impressing your new in-laws." Terrence was crying now, real tears running down his face. "I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I know that now. Please, can we fix this? Can we—" "Fix what?" "The house is sold. The money is in my account. I'm buying my own place. A place where I won't have to worry about a son who's ashamed of me showing up and pretending I don't exist." "I was never ashamed of you." "Yes, you were. You are. And you know what hurts the most?" I understood. For a second there, when you said Bianca's family was different, was fancy, I actually understood. Because I've spent my whole life being made to feel less than. Your father left because I wasn't good enough. My boss at the plant called me girl until the day I retired. People in stores follow me around like I'm going to steal something. I know what it's like to be seen as not enough. I stood up. But I never thought my own son would see me that way too. "Mama, please." "I need you to hear me, Terrence. Really hear me. You didn't just hurt my feelings. You didn't just exclude me from a party. You told me that everything I sacrificed, everything I gave up, everything I worked for, it was worth so little to you that you couldn't even tell me you were getting married. You reduced a lifetime of love to an embarrassment." I picked up my purse. "I forgive you," I said quietly. "Because I'm your mother, and that's what mothers do. But I don't trust you anymore. And I'm not going to keep breaking my back for someone who sees me as a burden. You're 32 years old. You have a law degree and a 6-figure job. You don't need me anymore. You made that clear. So now you get to figure out your life without me cleaning up behind you. Where are you going to live? That's not your concern anymore." I walked out of that coffee shop and didn't look back. 3 weeks later, I moved into my new house. A beautiful little 2-bedroom cottage in a quiet neighborhood. It has a front porch with a swing, a backyard with space for the garden I've always wanted, a kitchen with actual counter space, a bedroom big enough for my bed and a dresser, and a second bedroom that I'm turning into a craft room because I've always wanted to learn quilting. Pearl helped me move in. So did Calvin and Shanice and Pastor Elijah and half the church congregation. We spent all day carrying boxes and furniture, hanging pictures, arguing about where the couch should go. That night, after everyone left, I sat on my front porch swing with a glass of sweet tea and looked at my new home. My home. That I bought with my own money. That nobody could take from me. Where I could rest after a lifetime of working myself to the bone for other people. I thought about Terrence and wondered if he'd ever truly understand what he'd lost. Not the house, but me. The mother who would have done anything for him. Who still would, if he ever figured out how to love me the way I'd always loved him. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Ms. Loretta, this is Aisha Johnson. The girls wanted me to send you this. It was a photo of the 2 little girls in what used to be Terrence's living room, holding a sign they'd made. Thank you, Ms. Loretta. We love our new home. I saved that photo, printed it out, put it on my refrigerator. Because that's what the house was always supposed to be about. Not status or impressing people. Just a family, grateful for a home, building a life filled with love. That's what I'd wanted for Terrence. And maybe someday he'd understand that. But whether he did or not, I was going to be just fine. Better than fine, actually. For the first time in 67 years, I was free. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.